Welcome to the Beyond Emissions podcast, brought to you by Soligent. Here at the Soligent YouTube channel, like, subscribe, comment down below, be a part of this ongoing conversation about what it's going to take to create this world that is beyond emissions. We're excited. I'm so impressed with you tuning in every single week. We see the numbers. We see the listenership going up. We can see the views, and that means you're supporting this. Every week it's an educational opportunity. It's entertaining. We enjoy the entertaining side of it as well here at the Beyond Emissions podcast. But we're also all about the educational opportunities. Like Einstein once said, don't seek to be successful, seek to be valuable. And what better way listening here? Heck, as the host, I'm Josh Brumm. Welcome to the show. As the host of the Beyond Emissions podcast, I, just as a fly on the wall as the host here on the program, having experts from around the world joining us every week, am able to glean new knowledge and new information from this program. It is officially an educational opportunity, and we're excited today. The guy who taught me what a kilowatt hour is, my mentor, Brooke Hanner, Offline Solar Electric from Mariposa, California. Brooke, welcome back to the Beyond Emissions podcast.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Ooh, and clear signal too. You sound great. I love it. I love it. Brooke Hanner, you bought Offline Solar, I think back in 2012, from the original owner that founded it, I think back in 1980 or something like that, Don Loberg. Would you give a lowdown, if you will, on the history of Offline Solar? Don Loberg was the president of Calsea, now CALSSA, California Solar Storage Association, the original founder that you bought it from, but continuing on his mission. He fought against the CPUC and the utilities that did not want to allow rooftop solar to be installed by contractors on people's homes. They wanted centralized, where they controlled everything. But Calsea, now CALSSA, Don Loberg, the original founder of Offline Solar Electric, went up to Sacramento and fought for our rights. Would we even have rooftop solar installed by contractors today if it wasn't for Calsea, CALSSA, and your original founder, Don Loberg from Offline Solar?
I don't think so. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but all I can say is that Don Loberg was instrumental in resisting the utilities' attempt to try and take over solar at that time. The Southern California Edison was trying to become the sole installer in their jurisdiction, and so the battle was between them, becoming a sole installer and not letting any contractors work on solar in their jurisdiction, or not. And Don Loberg prevailed, and that opened up rooftop solar as we understand it today.
The original, the OG, right? The OG, the original gangsta of solar.
That's right.
And you bought Offline Solar back in 2012. I remember contacting you because Don kind of went off the radar for a year or so, and I was working at a company called Battery Systems at the time, and I was primarily, knowledgeable about batteries, but not necessarily at the time how to apply it to the solar customer and their needs. But knowledgeable about batteries. We learned about everything, every type of market, commercial truck fleet, golf, aerial work platform, power sports, deep cycle, forklift, everything. So everything we learned in all those other markets helped me to be successful and gave me the base of knowledge and foundation to be helpful to folks in the solar business. But at the time, I didn't understand the math. I didn't understand Ohm's law. I didn't understand load evaluations. And I had to go on a crash course to learn. And I came up one day to do a delivery of, I think it was 8 or 12. Yeah, 12 8D AGM battery, deep cycle batteries. Those are lead acid absorbed glass mat batteries, maintenance free, folks that are deep cycle. I think it was 12 of them which for a 48 volt system, because you had installed an outback inverter for the customer, and I was delivering it up at the job site, and you were there. We were leaning up against the truck. You helped me unload all the batteries and put the cores in the truck so we could recycle them. And normal part of business is like, it's just great service. You got me the batteries I needed at a good price. And that's the normal battery business. But beyond that, the knowledge needed to truly be helpful and grow and start this mission that I'm on now of creating a world that is beyond emissions. Now, as energy storage manager for Soligent, I'm so lucky and so blessed to have gone down that path. You were a huge part of that for me. You are a mentor of mine. Do you remember that day? You taught me what a kilowatt hour is that day, right?
I gave you the same spiel I give everybody in regards to explaining what a kilowatt hour is, and you caught on to it right away, and off we went. But it's pretty easy. I just tell people, a kilowatt is 1,000 watts over time, which is 1 hour. And 1 kilowatt of power will run 10 of the old incandescent light bulbs for 1 hour. It'll run 30 compact fluorescent light bulbs for an hour, or run approximately 100 LED light bulbs for an hour. Anyway, that's what a kilowatt does, and you certainly get more light out of a kilowatt if you're using LED lights.
Much more efficient. And that's something else you taught me as well. Customers that are listening right now, Brooke Hanner, owner of Offline Solar Electric. Go to offlinesolar.com today. Brooke is a mentor of mine. I'm Josh Brumm, energy storage manager here at Soligent, the total clean energy solution provider. If you'd like to find out more, click on the link below. Go to soligent.net today, or email me storage at soligent.net if you'd like help or any more further details or educational opportunities to learn from one of our vendors, partners, etc. You taught me early on, Brooke, efficiency. If you mentioned the efficiency difference between LED and incandescent light bulbs as an example. Right now, LED dominates the market, so it's not quite as prevalent as it was, although there are some adopters of the old incandescents that haven't switched over yet. And I know those are few and far and in between. But you mentioned efficiency as well. If the customer has a refrigerator from 1980, it might be cheaper or less expensive for them to go buy a brand new energy efficient refrigerator rather than having a larger battery bank and solar system to accommodate that ancient refrigerator, as an example. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the first thing to remember is the batteries are expensive, and to buy batteries to overcome an inefficient load, it could be a refrigerator or an old air conditioner, whatever that inefficient load is, it's cheaper to get rid of those inefficiencies almost all the time. I can't think of any time when it hasn't been true in my travels, but it's generally it's always more efficient to buy or replace the inefficient appliance than it is to buy battery for that to overcome that inefficiency. So, rule of thumb: if there's anything you can buy that's more efficient, do that first before you buy solar.
Brooke Hanner, Offline Solar Electric, here with us on the Beyond Emissions podcast. Brooke, I know that having a better future for our kids and grandkids, I know that's very important to you with the environment, and it's something that we can do. We can do something about it. There's an imbalance that has been created by all the fossil fuels taken out of the ground. The natural ability to capture that carbon that exists in our environment is offset by this imbalance, by the amount of fossil fuels that we burn for energy. And it's just created such an imbalance that it's causing issues with our climate and environment, etc. And there's something that we can do about it. What does a world that is beyond emissions mean for you?
Oh gosh, I mean, what it means for me or to me is just so many more things that will change. Just think about electric air travel. Think about electric, well, cars, which are already here to some extent. I mean, things will change so drastically. Think about, hydrogen cars. That's going to be in the mix. Think about using hydrogen gas to cook with versus natural gas to cook with. Natural gas has carbon. Hydrogen gas is zero carbon. I mean, there's so many more things that will change in time. And think about running generators on hydrogen versus natural gas. I really see that as something that will probably change in the next 15 to 20 years. It has to. I don't know of any better way than to overcome some of those big questions, like, how do we create energy on an off-grid system when it's inclement weather? Well, we need some sort of generator, generally speaking, and the clean generator will be that hydrogen generator. But, it would be, in my opinion, it'll look just like an internal combustion engine, except that instead of it burning gas, it'll burn hydrogen. And there's going to be tons of things like that, tons of changes like that. And to me, that's exciting. I love change. I love to see new technologies developed. That's exciting stuff. That's what got me into solar. That's what got me to be an electrician. So that's, I embrace that kind of stuff. I find it exciting, and like I said, and it keeps me going. That's all,
and
all the time.
It's something that you do regularly. You've installed hundreds, if not thousands, of systems at Offline Solar Electric, and over half of them have batteries attached to them. Do you have a lot of off-grid customers, or a good mix of grid tie with battery backup, or what does your customer mix look like, Brooke?
I'm just kind of pulling this out of my head, but I would say that it's, probably 35% off-grid, just basic off-grid. It's probably 15 to 20%. It's a grid tie battery backup, and these are numbers over the last few years. I think it would be different in the future, and the balance of that would be just a standard grid tie system. That 40 to 50% would be a grid tie systems. All of them are accomplishing the same thing. When you think of climate change, it's providing clean energy. But the off-grid system with batteries is probably, the one that produces clean energy even when in inclement weather or at nighttime, or it allows you to get through those times when there's no sun through solar. And I'm probably changing the subject here, but and with the cost of lithium coming down to a more competitive rate, it's becoming, an almost, I keep saying this to myself, it's almost a no-brainer to do batteries these days. It's almost a no-brainer to use lithium on your batteries these days. They're just, things are changing fast now, and battery storage is really starting to come on to its own, which is helping to resist, or not resist, that's not a good word, overcome some of the new restrictions in the new NEM3, the interconnector agreements with the utilities.
Ooh, yeah, let's talk about that. I know that's been a challenge to your business. I know the second that NEM3 was officially approved, and they basically said you've got until I think it was April or May to sign up everybody to grandfather them in for NEM2 and install them sometime this year, which I know created an artificial glut of battery-less systems to where you ended up basically, in other words, the duck curve that was happening. In other words, so much solar is being produced during the day that the utilities claim they're losing money and having to then, overproduce later at other times of the day because that energy that's overproduced during the solar sunshine time is too much and it's not being stored. And so the idea under NEM3 is if that excess energy, instead of being put on to create too much supply during a period of time where it's not as valuable to the utility, it would be better if all these homeowners had storage and was able to store that excess energy instead of selling it back. And the way they accomplished this is by saying the amount of excess PV array produced energy that you overproduce and not consume during the daytime that you would normally sell back to the utility, under the old regime, NEM2, they would give you whatever value that per kilowatt hour value was at that time that it was produced. Whatever you would buy it at that time is what they would give it to you back if you sold it to them, basically. And under NEM3, they took that away and said, no, what we're going to do is we're going to disincentivize that and only give you like 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So it doesn't pencil out unless you have storage, which now makes it pencil out because you store that energy and consume it yourself at night or what have you, helping to kind of eliminate that duck curve that the utility was concerned with. In other words, they have some merit to what they're saying in a sense, but at the end of the day, do they really have the best interest of the citizenry at heart and what's best for the grid overall? Or is it primarily maintaining control? I mean, what are your thoughts about NEM3 and what's going on right now?
Well, I got to say that I do like the battery components in NEM3. I do like incentivizing people to get batteries. I think that's the right thing to do. But it's an expensive proposition. I mean, one of their arguments, that the utilities made, that you had to be rich in order to take advantage of solar. Well, now you got to be richer, as far as I can tell. I mean, batteries are coming down, but a year ago you didn't have to have batteries in order to make it work. So what they've really done is they've created a thing where you have to be richer in order to have solar and make it work these days. I mean, there's still people that are doing solar, as just a standard grid tie system, but they're usually different circumstances. It's not circumstances that require people. They're not going to say that they're going to make, pay all their electric with it. It just, anyway, people are still doing it, but batteries are the way to go, I think, these days. And one of the things that the utility does want is, and we haven't mentioned this yet, is access to your batteries as well. And even that I kind of agree with. I think that, first of all, it'll be by permission. I don't think that they'll ever just be able to reach in and grab your power. But, my guess at this point, thinking about the NEM agreements in the future, is that, you're going to get the good deals in the future as far as your NEM agreement with the utility if you have batteries, because it's going to come down to this, in my opinion. The utility is basically going to say, if you've got batteries and you allow us to tap into them, the 20% of your battery when we need to, then we will give you better prices or more competitive prices on your overall NEM agreement. So I think in the future, those are the kind of agreements we're going to see. There'll be one with batteries, and there'll be one with just standard NEM or grid tie. And and it's going to force people to move more towards batteries, which I'm sure that's what the PUC wants to do, or at least that's what I think they want people to do. And again, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just think NEM3 for solar overall in California is going to slow down the actual installation of rooftop solar.
Right, right. And grandfathering everybody in 2023 until May, I mean, that made, for NEM2, that made an artificial thing happen in the market. The exact opposite of the goal. In other words, the goal is we want people to transition under NEM3. We want people to transition to storage, to batteries. So that excess PV array produced energy doesn't create that duck curve and excess supply that really just drives prices down and hurts everybody, including the utility. So what happened when they did the whole grandfathering everybody in under NEM2, what they really did is they incentivized everybody for this entire year just to go out and sell NEM2 battery-less projects up until May, basically. And there are folks then who have spent the whole year installing those NEM2 projects. Their sales teams haven't even gone out and started offering storage yet for the new pipeline, where storage is going to be required under NEM3, or it won't be profitable. You will not get a return on investment if you don't have storage with grid tie solar under NEM3. And so in a sense, it did a disservice, and it created an artificial bump in battery-less systems, the opposite of their goal, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I will tell you this: I live in a different place in Mariposa, California. The Sierras just outside of Yosemite. But for us, I would tell you that bump that it did create, a large portion of them had batteries. Because even in NEM2, they want batteries. They want to be able to get through the night when the grid goes down, because that's not reliable, especially here in the Sierras. It doesn't seem to be that reliable. It can go out, at least once a month for a couple hours, and that seems to be what most people tell me. Like I said, I live off grid, so I don't have that issue. But the people in the Sierras want batteries anyway, so at least 50% of my sales for that time were battery systems. And now, with batteries beginning to drop in price, I don't know if we've mentioned that, but becoming more affordable, it's becoming more and more easy to sell systems with batteries, especially if it's a lithium battery that, you can tell them it'll last near 17 years and only cost, 10 or 15% more than a lead acid battery bank. That's really, if you treat it well, you're only going to get 6 years out of, generally speaking. Right. There are people to get more, but it ain't me. I can promise you that. Right.
It's really that tipping point we've been waiting for lithium iron phosphate storage. By the way, folks, lithium iron phosphate energy storage solutions available here at Soligent. Click on the link below. With us right now, my mentor, customer as well, happy customer, installer, great businessman, great person, amazing friend, Brooke Hanner, owner of Offline Solar Electric, with us today at the Beyond Emissions podcast. I implore you folks, if you want to learn more about the history of rooftop solar in California, and so goes California, so goes the nation. It goes all the way back to Calsiea, now CALSSA, their original president, Don Loberg, who's the founder of Offline Solar Electric, the company that Brooke now owns. And great story there. If you'd like to find out more, go to offlinesolar.com to contact Brooke. And great conversation I know you will have. Education every single time I get on a call with you. I love it. We learn more together every single time. You mentioned just now, battery prices coming down, that tipping point that we've been waiting for finally happening. In addition, The IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, that was a bipartisan act signed into law by President Biden. It has been amazing for bringing manufacturing back for solar and storage here to the United States, in addition to the fact that whether it's with solar or standalone storage, instead of 26%, which the federal tax credit had gone down to, it's back up to 30%. And like I mentioned before, even if you don't have solar, standalone storage, as an example, paired with like a solar converter or something like that, qualifies for the 30% federal tax credit. I don't think most people realize, I can't have panels on my roof. My home is surrounded by trees with shade, I don't have a place for a ground mount, so I can't get solar. Well, guess what? Standalone storage, charging the battery when the rates are cheap and discharging it to your loads when the rates are higher. You can use energy storage for that, with the icing on the cake of having some emergency battery backup as well for your home. So you can actually save money on your bill and have battery backup without solar. I mean, I believe in solar, so this isn't an anti-solar statement, but not everybody can have solar, but they can still benefit from storage, standalone storage. Talk a little bit about that. What are your opinions on that, Brooke?
Well, basically, that was, basically it was what a power wall was, right? Is that it has a built-in inverter, it has batteries, and a charge controller, and you can use a power wall in that in that function. I think I have better ways of doing it, and I think you described one as Solar and some lithium batteries. It could be either Endure, or it could be Pike, or it could be Simplified, whatever it was. But if you if you use lithium batteries in a closed loop system with a solar converter and just the batteries by themselves, you can certainly charge them up every day and discharge them every night, and save on your utility, because you'd be charging during the early morning hours up until noon or thereabouts, and then from that point going forward, using the cheaper power that you had stored to get you through the more expensive times or phases during the day with the utility, and then that gets you back into the night, and then you can again use your battery for that if you'd like, or again you can use the less expensive cost or pricing from the utility during that time. It just gives you options. You can look at the mix and make it work for you, based whatever your needs and costs are. It allows you to pull the levers to your advantage versus the utility basically pulling the levers for their advantage. It puts you in the driver's seat.
What kind of per kilowatt hour difference is there from the daytime and say the overnight when your customer with standalone storage, no solar involved, they're just charging when the rates are low and discharging to their loads when the rates are high? What's that differential per kilowatt hour cost, when it's cheap to charge and more valuable to discharge, in your opinion?
Well, I know that the utilities are planning to charge, and I haven't seen what a NEM3 bill yet. But I do know that the utilities were planning to charge around, or give you about 8 cents a kilowatt, and they were, going to be charging for the kilowatt of power somewhere in the mid 30s to 40 cents a kilowatt. So it's going to take anywhere from 3 to 4 times production to get in order to get 1 kilowatt back.
So imagine though that this is standalone storage with no solar. We're not doing NEM3 and we're not exporting anything. Frankly, it's on your side of the meter. I don't even think you have to let the utility even know, because you're never going to export. You're never going to discharge anything. There is no solar involved here. It's standalone storage only. So you have, like, let's say as an example, and by the way, these solutions are available here at Soligent. If you're a homeowner listening, contact Offline Solar. Go to offlinesolar.com. Brooke offers these solutions as well from Soligent. So we appreciate our partnership with you, Brooke. But imagine standalone storage. Okay, there's no solar involved at all for you, the homeowner. To my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I believe we don't have to tell PG&E about it. You might need to get a permit locally to have it installed, etc. There are codes you have to follow, but there is no net metering agreement because you're not exporting anything from your battery. You don't have PV array, you don't have solar. The idea is you have like a Solarc, let's say you have a Solarc 15K inverter. That has, 200 amp internal transfer switch so you could back up your main panel. And then let's say you get, 40 to 60 kilowatt hours of storage or something like that, or heck, even 10. It doesn't matter. Whatever that amount of storage is that you want. And then basically you choose to charge the battery, say in the overnight when the utility is offering or charging, let's say 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Versus during the daytime or late evening or in the afternoon, whenever they're charging maybe 40 cents a kilowatt hour. So just imagine that you charge up your battery bank from the grid power at that cheap time at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and then you discharge your battery towards your loads, let's say in the evening when you would be charged 40 cents a kilowatt hour. That battery system is basically making you the difference, which is 30 cents a kilowatt hour profit. And you don't have to really get anyone involved from the utility on a net metering agreement because there's no solar and you're not exporting anything. On top of getting a 30% federal tax credit for the materials to do that. Standalone storage, that's without solar, that could be a big solution for a lot of homeowners that can't have solar, right?
That could be a big solution. And, I got to ask the question, would that 30% federal tax credit apply to that? I mean...
Yes, it does. I read through the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act that President Biden put into effect when he signed it into law. I checked into it, and I did confirm absolutely yes. You don't have to have solar. You can have standalone storage now qualifies for the 30%. 30%. Yes.
And with the solar converter, we talk about not having an interconnect agreement. That is so because you can actually set up the solar converter. You can dial in the amount of power you want to sell to the grid, and it can be anywhere from 0 to it doesn't quite go to 15 kW.
Well, one caveat I want to throw in there is that if it's standalone storage, there are rules. If you are going to export anything to the grid, sell it back to the utility, then it has to be produced from your solar. So solar does have to be involved, and what you're allowed to sell back to the grid at opportune times has to be solar derived or produced by green energy. So standalone storage, you're not exporting anything. You're just going to consume it instead of paying the higher rates at those times. You can get in and you can program all that into the Solarc, huh?
And I have. The Solarc allows you to go through and say, hey, I want to discharge my battery between 4 o'clock and 9 o'clock every day down, up to 2,000 watts per hour to either my house or to the grid, depending on how you're setting things up. This particular system is a grid tie battery backup. So they wanted to sell some power back to the grid as well. But you can program the Solarc, to do a lot of things. I love the solar converter. There are so many things you can do with it, and you can set up stuff with that load, with the load side on that inverter. That basically I can take a solar converter, and let's say I have a homeowner that has a 3.7 system right now. I can take a solar converter and replace that 3.7 with a 15 kW solar, dial it at 3.7 so it never sells more than that back to the grid, and then set up a panel that comes off the load side of that solar converter, and I could feed all the loads from that solar converter into the load side, and it's because it's a non-bi-directional wire. It just feeds the loads. I could take solar and drop it in there, or have some more solar on the system and completely direct it into that panel, only selling 3.7 back to the grid, and putting the rest of it back into that load panel. And PG&E would never even know, how much solar I really have, because I'm only selling 3.7 back to them, and that's all they're ever going to see. If I put 10 kW on my system, and put the rest of it on my loads on that load side of the inverter, they'll never know. They'll never see it whatsoever. I've even talked to PG&E about that to see how the people I was talking to some PG&E representatives to see what they thought PG&E would think of that particular scheme, which they definitely told me if PG&E knew about, or probably wouldn't be happy about it. Let's put it that way. If they could, come up with a way to make it so you can't do that, they would probably like it. But do you understand what?
Yeah, but essentially you make it you're portioning off a part of it to essentially be off grid, and
exactly.
It won't export. As a matter of fact, Solarc has the ability to create a zero export called limit to home use, where you're connected. Right. All you're doing is buying PG&E or Southern California Edison or your utility power as you need it, but you never ever export anything. I mean, so many different variables. I mean, grid tie battery backup, peak shaving. What about demand charge relief? What are those demand charges that customers see? We see it. I mean, we're customers. Well, you're off grid, you lucky bum. But we see it. And I mean, we look at it, Brooke, and it's like demand charge. What? What is going on here?
Just a connection charge is all it is. And they charge it to you by the day. It's somewhere around 35 cents a day. That's why it comes out right around $10 a month, $10 to $12 a month. But it's there every month. Or you can say, if I'm correct, if it's 35 cents a day, you can pretty much multiply that by the number of days in the year, and you're going to pay that amount every year on top of whatever utility charges or electricity charges you may have.
Now, demand, though, it's looking at KW at any time of the day, and then those demand charges are insane as well, right?
Well, there's some demand charges for big. I don't know that the regular homeowner has too many demand charges other than that 35-cent charge. But the way I understand it, those are generally applied to, utility or companies or users that have really big loads to begin with.
Like C&I, like commercial industrial 3-phase systems, huh?
Yeah, that's the way I understand those, yes. Because it's a fair amount of power that the utility has to keep ready for those industrial uses, right? Ready for the factory or whatever is being used, for that, to use that power. I mean, they got to have it when they need it. Otherwise, they're sending people home.
Out of the hundreds, if not thousands of systems you've installed, almost 50% of them have batteries involved. So you're obviously very experienced. Brooke Hanner, Offline Solar Electric, our guest today at the Beyond Emissions podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, click on the reminder bell down below for the Soligent YouTube channel. Comment as well. We want to hear what you think. I want your opinion, Brooke. Our listeners do as well. All that experience in batteries. Let's share some of that knowledge. In your opinion, How does a customer go about trying to figure out what battery's right for their installer businesses out there that could learn something from you here right now? How do they go about figuring out what battery solution is right? There's so many options. I go to these shows and everybody has a battery now. And I'm just really careful. Like, I'm not going to adopt the next 100 suppliers that come to me. I've got to be very careful and vet these suppliers to make sure that it's. But in your opinion, from your experience, hundreds if not thousands of systems with batteries installed over the years at Offline Solar, in your opinion, how do customers go about deciding or figuring out the right energy storage solution for the right batteries for their customers, for their clients? What's your advice on that?
It's changed so much here recently. I would have always told people to compare, a year ago, I would have told them to compare lead acid to lithium. Lithium was significantly higher, but lasted significantly longer. So there was reason to buy lithium batteries a year ago, because you're going to get 3 times, if not more, 4 times more if it's simplified, years out of that particular battery. So that was always the way I was doing it over the last couple of years. Just comparing it to lithiums and explaining to the homeowner exactly how much more life you can get out of lithium batteries versus a lead acid battery, which was significantly cheaper at the time. And then in most cases, people use lead acid batteries primarily. Primarily for. Sorry about that. Primarily, people use lithium batteries if they could afford it at that point. But most of our sales during the last couple of years has been lead acid. But things have changed. These days, I would tell you that there are some lithium batteries out there that the lithium iron phosphate. So they're the more more stable battery. And the prices come down to them, so that now I can pretty much tell you that when we do a bid, we usually put in our bid the extra money it would cost. We do our basic bid with lead acid, and then we have an adder if you want to do lithium. And I mean, now that adder is like $800 to $1,000. It's just really come down. I just, and comparing that to the amount of life expectancy of a lithium battery versus a lead acid battery, and the difference only being $1,000, but the difference in life is about 11 years longer. A lithium battery lasts up to 17 years, whereas a lead acid battery, like we said earlier, you're doing really well if you get 6 years out of it. So for $1,000 more, you're getting up to 17 years. It's just, why wouldn't you? If you're buying batteries for your system, why wouldn't you consider lithium batteries these days? It's a no-brainer.
And recently, I know you've mentioned your fondness for solar converters. By the way, folks, solar converters available right here at Soligent. Click on the link below to find out more. I know you install a lot of those because of all of the flexibility it offers for your customer. The Swiss Army knife of inverters, really. Battery agnostic, etc. You can choose virtually any battery system you want. So many different functions. Also as well, AC couple, DC couple, you can do both with it. That is a phenomenal benefit.
It'll manage your generator?
Yes. And it's not finicky. It's not difficult. You don't have, I love Outback because I learned so much from them. They were kind of the pioneer, if you will, of what was the best of the best a few years ago. But I remember it's just like just 50,000 hoops of, mental hoops of fire you have to jump through to figure out all the settings and offset the settings to be correct versus what the manual says to, work with generator XYZ. And the functions are interesting. They're awesome. They're amazing, but it was difficult. And some generators work a little more finicky with the different inverters than others. But the team over at SolarC, I mean, Tom Brennan, the CEO, just won Entrepreneur of the Year award for all he's done with his amazing team and their support there. They came up with a solution. He literally, during testing, Brooke, went down to Harbor Freight, bought a super inexpensive, cheap inverter that doesn't have the cleanest sine wave, and brought that back.
You mean generator?
Generator. Excuse me. Did I say inverter? I'm sorry about that. Yeah, generator. And he tied it in to the SolarC, and they figured out a technology to where you can pretty much plug any inverter into it. Generator into the inverter. Is that weird? I mean, that's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Well, you think about it like this: if you get the hardest one to work, you're certainly going to get the easiest one to work. Right. So if you design it and make it work with that tough one, there's probably not a single generator that it won't work with. So yes, I would say that's the way to do things. If you're designing or engineering an inverter with the generator use in mind.
Now we have been working with a company recently. I know you like a lot of different battery options that we offer here at Soligent. I mean, we have a lot. We have Enphase, we have SolarEdge, we have Generac, we have all the great lithium iron phosphate options, Home Grid, Simplified Power, now Briggs and Stratton, Fortress Power, Endure Energy. Lots to discover. I mean, lots of different options we have available here at Soligent. Find out more, storage at soligent.net. Email me or click on the link below. But recently we started working with a new partner called Pites Battery. And Pites Battery. I said, you know what? Let's connect Brooke with them. And we're just starting our relationship with Pites, and just had them on the podcast episode ago. Check it out. Past episode here at the Soligent YouTube channel. Pite's team was on the show with us, but just connected you with them, and they're working with your amazing representative from Soligent, Vicki Wallace. Shout out, Vicki. What's up, girl? And tell our listeners about your experience. I mean, all those other providers that you offer and we sell here at Soligent that you provide customers, all those different battery options are great, and they've all worked really well with us over the years. But there's another level that you've experienced in price, but also support from Pites that we just don't really see in the industry today, but it's very, very valuable and helpful to all parties involved. Talk a little bit about that, your experience with Pites Battery.
Where I was, and still working on it some, but we're working on a large bid for a facility called Happy Goat here in Mariposa, which is a big ranch. It's from farm to plate. They're going to have a restaurant on the ranch itself. They have a restaurant in town. But they want to be completely off-grid on their ranch, so we're setting up 4 wells, or giving some numbers or prices to set up 4 wells on off-grid solar, as well as a 400 amp system at one of their barns and a 200 amp system at the other barn. The 400 amp will have a restaurant tied to it. They're going to have 400 amps basically of storage and 400 amp capacity. So they'll be able to run a big facility, restaurant. They could have a concert or something there. It's one of the biggest standalone systems that we've put together like that. And a 400 amp is pretty exciting, but also a 200 amp as well. And each one of the 4 wells. Well, we decided to ask Pike to help us out in what do we need to, from them in order to make this work. There's battery management boxes or whatever it might be, and how big we could actually take their batteries and what ultimate battery we could create with it. And they took the ball and ran. Within a day, we had basically a full print with a list of all the material we need in order to build each one of those, the 200 amp system and the 400 amp system. We call them, make a change on it, and within 10, 12 hours later, boom, the change was back in front of us. The corrected changes were back in front of us. It was amazing. And not only that, it cleared up all the questions in my mind as to what I needed to do or what we were actually building. And I was able to share that with the client, right? So they could see what was going into the system.
When you brought that to the client, that resource Pike's created for you, when you brought that and showed it to the client, how did that make the client feel?
Well, let's put it this way. When I put it in their hands and told them they could take it with them, do whatever they wanted with it, they were very excited. It tells them so they can understand. It was drawn in such a way that with just a little bit of study of the blueprints, you would have a good understanding as to what components were going into the system. The number of batteries, the number of battery management system boxes, the number of fuses, the number of breakers, the number of bus bars, everything was listed out and drawn out so that it was completely comprehensible. In other words, when I give somebody a price and say it costs X amount of dollars, they may not understand as to what all's going into it. But when I could put this in front of them and say, this is the components and this is the basic, the basic design of what we're talking about, it gave them an understanding of what we were doing and why it cost the amount that it cost. The number of batteries that were going into it. If I remember correctly, it's 80 lithium batteries that's going into the 400 amp and 40 lithium batteries that's going into the 200 amp. And it's like, that made it perfectly clear, and you could see how each stack was happening, and it just made your understanding of what was going into it perfectly clear, and they could use that for themselves in their thinking and in their design and what they and why they understood why we were doing what we were saying that we needed to do. It just cleared up everything.
Yeah, instilled confidence in the customer, right? Confidence. Right. For our listeners, this is a pretty cool project. It's called Happy Goat, right? Tell our listeners it's going to be what in Mariposa. What is Happy Goat? What are you building a power system using Pike's batteries and Solarc inverters, custom design from Pike's. Available right here at Soligent. If you'd like a custom design system, just like Brooke's talking about, to instill confidence in your customers, email me storage@soligent.net today. It's called Happy Goat, this project that you're building a system for. Tell our listeners, what is Happy Goat?
It's going to be a destination up here in Mariposa. And what I mean by that is it's a ranch, and I'm guessing it's probably about 500 acres, or it's in that range. And basically, it's a big farm. They're growing lots of produce and fruit and stuff that they've recently planted and developed. And and their point is it's going to be from plate or from branch to plate, right? So they're all their vegetables and produce that they produce will, they'll use in their own restaurant, as well as sell in other local restaurants here in Mariposa, and also the park, I would imagine, Yosemite National Park, I should say. So it's a destination that you'll be able to go to with your family. When I've gone there, it's just amazing. I mean, the rock work and the roads and the goats. They've got 60 goats. They've trained. They've leashed trained so that if a family comes up and they just want to hang out with a goat, walk them around, they can do that. They can go just walk around and look at all the other animals they have there, as well as the produce and have a meal there, and they can have private meals. I mean, they're just gonna. It's just a cool place. That's all I can say. Just really comfortable. It's just, you'd be happy to take your family there and just hang out on, some afternoon or morning, go there for breakfast and then walk around afterwards. That's the kind of place it is,
And
it's more.
the power is clean.
Yes, and the power will be clean. It'll be 100% off grid is the way they're designing it. So that, the water pumping out of the ground will be on solar. All the power that they're using for the restaurants and the packing barn and the refrigeration, everything will be off grid. Their stoves, though they'll probably use propane, would be my guess right now. But they'll still have microwaves. It'll be propane. I doubt they're going to have air conditioning because most of their barns are open air. So I don't think air conditioning, though they probably will power a lot of fans. And, everything will be off grid, and that's pretty cool too. Because what people will notice as time goes on with their off grid system, they'll start to notice that when the grid's down everywhere else, they're still up. We can still go out to breakfast at Happy Goat. Let's go. They're not closed. It's going to be cool when it becomes off grid, and people can, will be able to see it and see how it functions. It's going to be pretty exciting.
That is awesome. A destination in addition to helping our environment, being completely powered off the grid by 100% clean energy. Total clean energy solution provider. We are Soligent. If you'd like to take advantage of custom designs with partners like we have with Pites Battery and Solark Inverters, which are building the Happy Goat off-grid system, you could take advantage of that as well. Email me, storage@soligent.net, and we're happy to connect you with those same exact resources to help custom design a system for you, but completely off the grid, great for the environment, totally independent. No intermittency with the power. It's not going to go on or off depending on what's going on, right? It's all going to work. And that is a big part of that confidence that you were able to relay to the customer from the resource provided by our partner at Pites Battery. That really made a big difference in imparting that confidence to that customer to proceed. Now, folks, Offline Solar, go to offlinesolar.com. They're partners. They buy their system components, storage, solar, etc. from us. Vicki Wallace, the rep again for Offline Solar here from Soligent. If you'd like to take advantage, click on the link below to find out more. You can get these system components from Soligent as well. But Offline Solar, you're in Mariposa. For listeners who are around the world, in Europe, South America, or elsewhere in the country, who might not be familiar where, like geographically speaking, location-wise, where Mariposa is, it's really the gateway to Yosemite, isn't it? A lot of beautiful country, a lot of beautiful folks go up to Yosemite all the time from around the world as a destination. But Mariposa's right there. It's a cool little town, and I mean, it's got its own vibe, right? I mean, tell folks, if they're unfamiliar with where you're located, a little bit more about your geography and where you're at.
It's basically in the center of California. If you were to look in the middle of the long dimension of California, you would find Yosemite Valley, Yosemite National Park, Mariposa, Oakhurst. There would be one of the towns, or Groveland. In that area, those are towns generally in this area here. Mariposa has a long history. It's kind of fun to talk about it real quick. Mariposa used to be the capital of California. It used to be the largest county in California. It used to go all the way down to Alpine County, down to the south, and all the way to Monterey and in the west, and to the California border on the east. And I don't know how far it went up north. I think it probably went all the way up to Modoc County. It was huge. It was called the mother of all counties. Over the years, it's obviously gotten smaller. But there's a reason for it. I once talked to what I consider to be one of the real locals around here, which are people that migrated here in 1850, or their family migrated here in 1849. And they've been around here family-wise ever since. And, you talk to some of those people as to why Mariposa was so big in the past and why it's, relatively small these days, and it's basically because there's a bunch of independent people here in Mariposa. As they watched California politics over the years, and they saw, the political fights that happened in Monterey or Fresno or Madera or whatever county it is today, and that county wanted to annex itself from Mariposa. It was basically no problem. Guys, we don't want any part of that. You can take it all yourself, and just leave us alone. And over the years, Mariposa became a smaller county. But it also, you can see how the people that live in Mariposa could be a little bit more independent than most people in California. It's just got a history, a history starting with the gold rush and all the way through today. It's a very interesting place. I've lived here off and on, more on than off, since 1973. And there's one thing I always tell people about Mariposa County is once you move here, you really never move away. It's always one of those places that's always in your heart, and you just can never forget about it. And most people that come here, you always see them again. They never leave it. You make your best friends here. You meet friends that you consider family here. It's just a special place.
Folks, go visit them. When you're up there going to Yosemite, traveling with your family, stop on by Mariposa. Check out Happy Goat and know that it's 100% clean, off-grid power, powered by Offline Solar in Mariposa, offlinesolar.com. Go there today. And of course, all those components purchased through Soligent. So if you'd like to take advantage of the great benefits of working with Soligent and the great partners that offer resources and designing, etc., like Pipes Battery, solar converters, etc., just like Offline Solar is, you can do that. Email me, storage@soligent.net, and we're happy to help. Brooke, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I looked at the clock and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already over an hour. I only told you 45 minutes or so. Time flies when we're having fun, right?
I'm just going to have to charge you more, that's all.
There you go. There you go. I'll be like my grandpa. I'll put a quarter on the counter for you.
There you go.
Appreciate you so much. My mentor and friend, Brooke Hanner from Offline Solar Electric. We'll have him back on again in the future. We have him on periodically because he's just an amazing resource. And again, a friend. We appreciate you so much, Brooke. If listeners tuning in would like to call you and glean more knowledge and pick your brain a little bit, what's the best way for them to reach you, Brooke?
Well, they can always go to our website, and there's info at offlinesolar.com. That comes directly to me, and I should I should catch it and answer you back whatever question you might have. You can also text me at my cell phone number, which is area code 619-995-1009, or you can reach me at the office. It's area code 209-742-6333, or you can come visit us here at 5182 State Highway 49 North, Mariposa, California. We'd love to have you stop in.
offlinesolar.com and all of those opportunities there. I hope you noted it down. You can hit rewind down below or comment, down below, and I'll connect you with Brooke directly, whatever it takes. You're an amazing friend and an amazing resource that we're just blessed to have the opportunity to chat with in educating ourselves, helping us create this world that is beyond emissions. Right, Brooke?
Beyond emissions, that's our goal.
Yep. The emissions are in the rear view mirror. Our director of marketing, Eric Daly, created an awesome graphic. Shows a vehicle with this beautiful blue sky with the road ahead and the windshield you're looking out. And then up in the rear view mirror, you see all this nasty pollution in the rear view mirror reflection, showing that that's all behind us and we're headed towards an emissions-free future. That's what we're working on. A better world for our kids and our grandkids, and we can do it. We're making a difference, right, Brooke? I think we are. I mean, granted, we're at the beginning steps, if you will, but we're making a difference together, aren't we? Everyone in this business.
Oh, absolutely. We're making a difference. I always wonder if it's going to be enough. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but the one thing I always say to myself is at least I'm doing what I can. That's all we can do, right? We can only do what we can do. I can't change climate change myself, all by myself, but I can change the things I do in order to help climate change become less of a problem for our planet.
Thank you very much, Brooke. Well said. Folks, if you'd like to find out more, again, contact me. I'll connect you with Brooke, or go to offlinesolar.com today and learn more. Click on the link below. You can partner with Soligent just like Brooke. Brooke, thanks so much. We'll have you back on again. Hang on the line for our engineer, sir.
All right. Thank you, man. I'll talk to you again.
Right on.
It's a pleasure to be on, and I hope I help people with some of their questions they might have out there.
No, like I said, Brooke, here I am, energy storage manager for Soligent, the total clean energy solution provider. And I've got all these years in energy storage experience, etc. And yet here I am. Folks tell me that this is our battery expert. He's a battery expert. And I, of course, in my humility go, I might be, but, I don't know everything and I'm constantly learning. And I notice this every time I'm on the show with experts like yourself. I just continue to learn more. So, it goes to the old saying, never stop learning. You can never, ever learn enough. Right, Brooke?
Oh, it's the most exciting thing you can do all the time. I love learning. That's my favorite thing to do, is to get a good grasp of something and be able to use it to my benefit or somebody else's benefit.
Right on. Brooke Hanner, thank you so much. Hang on, buddy. Appreciate you. Wow, what a great program. Excited to have another edition of the Beyond Emissions podcast. And again, helping us become more valuable. Like Einstein said, don't seek to be successful, seek to be valuable. Valuable to you, yourself, your teammates, your business, and your customers. And eventually, as we can see with our mission of creating a world that is beyond emissions in this renewable energy industry, really it benefits all of us, future generations, and the entire world. Economic, climate, environment, you name it. It's a win, win, win. And Brooke Hanner taught me that one there, my mentor. I'm glad to have him on. Glad to have you here again. in the listener seat for another episode of Beyond Emissions. Thank you very much for joining us every week. Click on the link below to find out more. Connect with me for storage opportunities and more learning opportunities, storage@soligent.net. And we look forward to our next episode as well, so stay tuned. If you subscribe, hit the subscribe button. We are at Spotify, Beyond Emissions Podcast by Soligent at Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes. But here at the Soligent YouTube channel, click on that notification bell, subscribe, because every time there's a brand new episode, it will automatically notify you so you can find out the latest and greatest happening in the world of energy storage and solar right here at the Beyond Emissions Podcast. Again, brought to you by Soligent, your total clean energy solution provider, pioneering solar since 1979. We are Soligent, and thanks so much for tuning in every week and listening to the Beyond Emissions Podcast.
We at Soligent are incredibly excited to announce our partnership with GivePower. Well, we wouldn't be here today talking to you about GivePower if it wasn't for our partners, LoanPal. They've been with GivePower since the beginning. Their contribution has given water and light to countless people across the globe. We are truly inspired by LoanPal's dedication to the cause. Something LoanPal said really strikes a chord regarding GivePower, that this is something that's more than money. It's what makes making money more worthwhile. In a lot of ways, that's synonymous with what we're doing here at Soligent.
Here's how you can help.
What we've decided to do is compound LoanPal's contribution by donating to GivePower on every order paid via our direct pay program through LoanPal. That's right. Every time your company uses your LoanPal portal to pay Soligent for material, 5 people get clean drinking water for a full year.
Together we're stronger.
Together, we can choose to be extraordinary by giving to people who live outside our reach. To us, this means a lot more.
Soligent's purpose meets GivePower's mission. Join the impact. Soligent, Solar Engine. SolarEngineSolutions.com. Go there to find out more.